You felt it. Right before you said it out loud, something in your chest tightened. And you said it anyway. You told them your plan, your next move, that thing you've been quietly building. And now it feels different, heavier, exposed, like something slipped through your fingers the moment you spoke. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Not every person who listens to your goals is rooting for you. And worse, your body usually knows that before your mind does. But you override it because they've been around for years, because they mean well, because it would feel rude to hold back. So you talk, and something in you contracts. That's not anxiety. That's recognition. Your nervous system catching a pattern your conscious mind is too polite to admit. You think you're sharing excitement, but your body is reacting like you just leaked something valuable into the wrong room. Pause. Think about the last time you told someone your goal. Not what they said. What did you feel? Did your shoulders relax, or did they subtly brace? Did the energy rise, or flatten? Did you leave feeling clear, or quietly drained? That feeling? That's data. And most people ignore it because they've been trained to trust words over signals. But here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't have to sabotage you directly to affect your outcome. Sometimes it's more subtle than that. A delayed response, a half-enthusiastic, "that's nice," a quick shift of topic, a joke that lands slightly wrong. Your mind brushes it off, but your body doesn't. Because your body isn't listening to their words. It's reading alignment, tone, timing, micro-expressions, energy. And when those don't match, something in you pulls back. But you override it because history says you can trust them, and your body says something's off. So now you're split. And that split, that's where your momentum starts leaking. Because once a goal is spoken in the wrong environment, something strange happens. You start performing it instead of building it. You explain it more than you execute it. You defend it instead of developing it. And slowly, it loses its edge, its intimacy, its power. Here's why. When you talk about your goals, your brain rewards you prematurely. It gives you a small hit of satisfaction, like you've already made progress. But if the person receiving that information doesn't match your energy, your system gets confused. You shared something sacred and got neutrality, or doubt, or subtle resistance. Now your brain associates that goal with friction instead of momentum, and you don't even realize it. You just feel less driven, less certain, more hesitant. So you compensate by talking about it more, explaining it better, trying to make it sound real. But that's not progress. That's leakage. And your intuition? It tried to stop you. That tiny hesitation before you spoke, that wasn't random. That was your internal system asking a question. Is this the right place for this? But you weren't trained to ask that. You were trained to share, to be open, to speak things into existence. And sometimes that's the exact thing killing them. Because not every environment is built to hold your vision. Some environments flatten it, dilute it, or quietly compete with it. And your body knows the difference instantly. You just haven't been listening. So instead, you rely on history. They've always supported me. But support in the past doesn't guarantee alignment in the present. People change. Dynamics shift. Jealousy doesn't always look like hostility. Sometimes it looks like indifference, or subtle disengagement, or energy that doesn't rise when yours does. And your system catches that immediately. That's why you feel slightly off after certain conversations, not because anything obvious went wrong, but because something didn't line up, and your body's saying, be careful where you plant this. But you keep planting anyway, in rooms that were never meant to grow what you're building. And then you wonder why it's not taking off. It's not just about discipline. It's not just about strategy. It's about containment. Some goals don't need validation. They need protection. And your intuition? It's been trying to protect you this whole time. You just keep calling it doubt.
Let's get more uncomfortable. Some of the people you trust most are the worst places to store your unfinished vision. Not because they're bad people, but because they're attached to a version of you that your goal is about to destroy. And that creates tension, not always visible, but always felt. You say, "I'm working on something big," and they smile, but something in their face flickers, just for a second. You don't consciously register it, but your body does, because your growth introduces uncertainty into their reality. If you change, the dynamic changes. If you succeed, the comparison shifts. If you outgrow, the relationship has to evolve or break. And most people don't consciously process that. They just respond differently. Less energy, less curiosity, less engagement. And your system picks it up instantly. That's why sometimes after sharing your goals, you feel smaller instead of expanded. That's not in your head, that's misalignment. And here's where it gets dangerous. You start adjusting your ambition to match the room. You soften it, downplay it, make it more acceptable. Because something in you wants to maintain connection, even if it costs you momentum. So now, you're not building what you actually want. You're building a version of it that won't disrupt your environment. And that version, it rarely works, because it's compromised from the start. This is how people stay stuck for years, not because they lack potential, but because they keep exposing their raw ideas to environments that can't hold them. And every time they do, their conviction weakens just a little, until the goal becomes something they talk about instead of something they move toward. And here's the part that might hit harder than anything else. Sometimes your intuition isn't warning you about danger, it's warning you about dilution, about wasting energy explaining something that should still be protected, about turning something powerful into something performative. Because the moment you start seeking reaction, you stop building in silence. And silence, that's where real momentum lives. Not in conversations, not in announcements, in execution. Quiet, focused, uninterrupted execution. But that requires restraint, the ability to feel that urge to share and not act on it. The ability to notice that slight tension in your body and respect it, instead of overriding it. Because that tension is specific. It's not saying, "Don't trust anyone." It's saying, "Not here, not yet, not like this." And if you start listening to that, something shifts. You become more selective, more contained, more dangerous in a quiet way. Because now your energy isn't scattered across conversations, it's directed into action. And people won't hear about your goals anymore. They'll see them, fully formed, undeniable, too real to question. And by then, it doesn't matter who approves, because it's already done. That's the difference between people who talk and people who move. One leaks their vision for validation. The other protects it until it becomes reality. And your intuition, it's been trying to move you into that second category, not by shouting, but by tightening, by pausing, by making you feel something's off. The question is, next time you feel that, will you listen, or will you keep explaining your future to people who were never meant to understand it? If this hits something real for you, don't scroll past it. Take that moment you've been ignoring and actually sit with it. And if you want more content that challenges the patterns you've been conditioned to accept, subscribe, like the video, and stay close to this kind of conversation. Because the more you hear it, the harder it becomes to ignore yourself.